Hey everybody, it's Sarah from Chickadee Craft Company, and today I'm going to show you how to make this paper Queen Anne's lace. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is take one of our silver wires, and this silver wire is actually about half the length of the kind that comes in the kit. And everything in this video, except for the white glue that comes in right at the end, and the wire cutters and the scissors, are all included in the Paper Queen Anne's Lace Kit at Chickadee Craft Company. So the first thing we're going to do is wrap this piece of floral wire, the silver one, in some floral tape. And floral tape is super weird. It has almost no stick at all, as you can see like that, but a very, very mild stick is created by stretching it. So wrapping a piece of floral wire in floral tape is the motion of stretching it with one hand and twisting it with the other, just like that. And Queen Anne's lace have a very, very slender stem, so we're just going to put one coat of floral tape on there, just like that. Perfect. Now we're gonna set that aside, get out our scissors and a sheet of the Petal Perfect paper that comes in the kit. And there are 4 strips in this. There's a small, large, and for one Queen Anne's lace, we just need 1 strip of the small and 1 strip of the large. So we'll just go ahead and start out by cutting out strip of the small, and because there's like not a huge difference between the large and the small, I also have them labeled right on there for you, so you don't get confused. So now we are going to take this strip of paper and we are going to fold it really carefully on that fold line. And the reason why we do this is because we kind of want the florets that we're going to make out of this paper to scrunch up and ball up really nicely without too many like loose ends, and it gets really spiky if you don't do this. So the first step is to just fold really carefully right on that fold line. And now we're going to take that strip and I always like it when you fold it with a color on the outside, not only because it makes it a little easier to see, but also because like the light end is where we're going to cut into next, so it's always good to have that visual cue. So we're going to fold it once, twice, and one more time. And the reason why we fold it like this is because now we're going to fringe it. And you can either fringe the whole thing and it'll take forever, or you can just do this and it'll take a quarter of the time. So now I am going to show you my fringing technique. Be super careful with this, okay? Because it's always works so much better if you have a nice sharp pair of scissors. So we are going to, I like to rest the scissor on this finger and hold it with this, and be super aware of where this finger is, because it could be potentially you could cut yourself. So just be really careful and be aware of where all your fingers are. So now I'm just opening and closing that scissor and not really trying to move it at all, and that's how you get like a super duper fine fringe, almost thread-like sometimes. It's so pretty. And when you find you've gotten to a spot where it's a little hard to hold, flip it around and we're going to go from this side in. And I just think that I think that when the scissors get too close to my fingers, I get a little bit freaked out, and I tend to lose that little bit of fine fringing that I want to achieve. So this is a good way just to keep all those fingers out of your scissors, because I've cut myself a ton of times. Not necessarily fringing, but just like being a lifelong crafter, I've cut my hands so many times. So now we're going to unfold that fringe. Actually, this one looks like it could use just a little bit more. Look for any like really chunky pieces and go back in and kind of chop them up a little bit more. And now we're going to separate these just along those fold lines that we made before, because you don't need a ton for each of the little florets. And this is just a really nice way to make sure everything is, it doesn't have to like be like, don't go like crazy trying to get it like each perfectly the same size. Like that's not what we're going for. We just want more or less generally the same size, but don't stress too much about it. Because if you've ever taken a look at a Queen Anne's lace, you can kind of tell like each of the florets are definitely just doing their own thing on there. They're not all perfect or even, and your flower will look a lot better if you make them generally even, but like don't stress out too much about it. Awesome, so now we have those. And we are going to take one, open it up, and close it again. And the reason why we do this is it's just going to give the floret that we're going to make a nice amount of body to it. So now we've got the silver wire that we wrapped in floral tape back out. And I just like to press into that, and that kind of gives it it kind of will stick. Surprisingly, even though floral tape has almost no stick at all, it really likes to stick to itself, and it really likes to stick to this paper that we use. That one's a little too chunky. I'm just going to pluck that. Awesome. Now we're going to get our floral tape back out and secure that onto the wire. Just like that. Make sure you're stretching it a little bit and going around, and that's going to stay a nice permanent bond. Now we are going to kind of splay these out a little bit like that, and then just scrunch them up just like that. I like to go in kind of like take my thumb and roll it around a bunch. But if you just want to make it like really scrunchy and like and then open it up again, that works too. I just kind of really like the feeling of going around in a circle like that. And now we're going to open it up. So we made like the ball, right? So now we're just going to flatten out that ball a little bit. Just like that. And that is our center floret. So I'm going to set that aside. Get out our tape, and this is the green wire that comes in the kit. And even though the silver wire and the green wire, they look about the same width, the green wire is cloth covered, so it actually has a lot more bend and malleability to it, which is nice. And exactly what we want for this Queen Anne's lace. I experimented with so many different kind of wires before I decided on the, this is a cloth colored 22 gauge floral wire. But I tried all sorts of different floral wires for this because all the little florets are held on by these like super delicate little tendrils. And I've actually found that this one is the best for the flower because it has a lot of strength to it. It's really gonna hold up. While still being malleable. It's kind of hits that sweet spot. So we covered that 22 gauge wire in floral tape, and we're going to get out our template. Okay, so this template is actually, it looks a little different than the one in your kit, because the one in your kit is attached to the booklet. It like comes included in the booklet, but you know, I just printed out on this sheet of paper because it's a little bit, that's how I kind of made my mock-ups and stuff like that. So it'll look a little different, but it's the same size and everything. So now I measured that out, and now I'm just going to cut 3 of these because we need 3 of the small. Oops. And you'll get a little bit of that. Sometimes they catch. If you get a little thread like that that won't come off, just snip it with some scissors. And one more. Because oddly, wire cutters actually don't cut thread very well. I don't know why. It's like a weird thing that happens. It can cut through wire, but it can't cut through thread sometimes. It's odd. Awesome. Now we'll get out a couple more of these. And on this one, I'm just going to do one for your example, and I'll set those aside, but just know that for this step, you're going to want to do it the 3 times. So now we opened it and closed it, and we're going to do the same thing we did for that top tendril. So let's press that in, and the floral paper will stick. And then go around and make like a little tassel on the top of this. Get out the floral tape. And secure that on just like that. And do the other, same thing on the other side. Just like that. So we're going to open it, close it, press it into start. Kind of gives it a nice little grip because it can get really slippery otherwise. And if it's slippery, that's fine too. Just want to make sure that it's nice little tassel. And if these tassels actually get like really like tangled up, or they don't look like tassels, that happens for sure from time to time, but don't worry about it. It will still, because we scrunch it up so much in the later steps, you don't even have to worry about it. So now we're going to get our template back out, and I'm just going to line this up to, I like to line up the top of where my floral tape starts and curve it in and hold it down with 2 fingers and curve it up. And you don't have to make sure that it's like the most perfect thing to that template, for sure. It's more just to kind of give you an idea of where everything is kind of should be, but don't worry about it if it's a little bit different than that. And now we're just gonna ball these up again, just like that. And I kind of think when you're balling these up, it's almost like kneading bread. It looks really loose and messy and weird until you get it till it starts to look like what you want it to look like. So if it's taking a little bit more time, don't worry about it. Just keep on working it until it finally gets into that kind of, that one actually has too big of a piece on it. I didn't do the best job fringing those, I guess. Every section seems to have one of those. Perfect. And now we're just gonna ball those up, and sometimes they come together really nicely and quickly like that one did, and sometimes they come together less quickly and nicely. So now I'm going to set that aside for 1 second, and I actually have the other 2 already done. And now I'm just going to take, I like to take like, I don't know, that much. That's a little too much, like that much off. And now we're going to make floral tape twine. So all you have to do with that is we're going to stretch it and twist it just like that. Almost the same way that we, because it's like I said, the floral tape likes to stick to itself, and it likes to stick to the paper that we use in these kits. But so when you make floral twine, you just stretch it and twist it. And see how much it stretches? It doesn't even feel like it's stretching that much sometimes when you're working with it, but it actually stretches quite a bit because that's way longer than we had before. So now we're just going to take our first little tendril like that, and you kind of center it. And don't worry, anything that we do in these next couple of steps can totally be adjustable. Like nothing about this fixing it onto the actual stem is terribly permanent. Like it'll stay on there, but you'll definitely be able to adjust it and everything. So now we have that all twisted on, and nudge that a little bit. So like try for center, but if you end up getting it on there and you're like, oh shoot, that's not centered, you can adjust it. So this is a little bit of a tricky part at first, because we're going to go around once, around twice, right? And then over like that. And then we're going from the other direction now. So 1, 2. And we want that little ball that stays, that kind of keeps that on there to be as small as possible, because we want these florets to have a really tight spacing. So I just like to pinch it a little bit on the front and the back just to kind of tell it where it wants to go. And then we're just going to hold it and pull it until that breaks, just like that. And if you pull it and it breaks and you have like a little bit of extra, just go ahead and trim that. So now we're just going to move that up until it's flush with the top one. And I actually like to, for the very first one, I like to aim for a little less than flush. So then as we keep on adding them, it's going to naturally want to nudge it up and up and up. So a little bit less than flush is where we're going for that one. Awesome. And so you don't have to watch me put every single one of these on. I have this already done. So this is the first 3 that we're going to do. And as you can see for these last one, I had to kind of re-sculpt it up, and I'm going to show you that a little bit more closely for the very, very last one that we do, for the big tendrils or the big florets. I've been flipping back and forth with which term I like better, but so that is that all done. So that's just all 3 of those, and then you swoosh them up and up and up, just like that, and kind of get them nice and even spaced. So now we are going to get back out our template, and I have, as you can see, 4 of these long ones, because we're going to want 4 for the, we just did 3 on the inside, but we want 4 for the outside. And I always like to say that you can make them a little bit bigger than this line that's in your booklet, but don't make them smaller, because it really, longer is fine, but smaller will make it kind of like your job a lot harder when you're going to put them on. So now this is the a strip of the large, and we prep these exactly the same way as we did the small. So we folded them over a few times and fringed them, and now I'm just going to separate them out right where those fold lines are. And again, don't stress about it. It's supposed to be fun and relaxing, and I feel like a lot of times we try so hard to be perfect, and it's really the imperfections that make things look a lot better than all that wasted energy being stressed out, especially with flowers. I have torn apart enough flowers to tell you 100% no 2 petals are the same, no 2 florets are the same, no 2 flowers are the same. So the little differences that your hand's going to make is going to actually make it look a lot more realistic. So I'm just going to take 2 of these, because I'm just going to show you the first one, and then I'll have the rest of them all done. We'll just need 1 of these. And again, everything that we're going to show you, that I'm going to show you on this, gets applied to all 4 of the little floret tendril things. We'll get back out our floral tape, and I'm just going to add that to the top, just like that. Roll it, make a little tassel, just like that. Oh, someone's backing up in my parking lot. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I hope you can, because it'd be weird because I'm talking about it now. Okay. And on the other side, same thing. Perfect. Press it in, roll it out. And I find that with these bigger ones, even though it's like, there's hardly any difference between the small ones and the big ones, but when it gets like multiplied by 2, the way that it would, like, you know, like 1, 2 on each side, oh goodness, I hope that makes sense. It actually does, it is quite a bit bigger once it's all splayed out. So we're gonna, oh, you know what, I forgot a step. Not splay those out yet. We have to put them on here. And the only reason why we do this part first before we scrunch it is I think that it helps not, that one's not quite, let's see if I can't do that a little bit better. Perfect. It's just like it lies a little bit flatter when you're trying to, you know, get it to kind of be what that template says. It's easier to do it when it's in tassel mode than when it's all scrunched up and in its real Queen Anne lacy looking way. So now we're going to splay those out and just scrunch them up. Just like that. And like I said, it's just like kneading bread, you know? It's really loose and weird until it resembles what you want it to resemble. And it's almost there. There we go. So that's really tight, so I just want to open that up a little bit. So we had our ball, and now we're just going to open it up a little bit, and there, I think that looks nice. Do the same thing on this one. So we're just going to ball it up. I like to make my thumb kind of do that, like make it go whoosh, you know what I mean? Like, and then, so that was a nice kind of ball, and now we just want to flatten it out a little bit to give you that nice little Queen Anne's lace floret. And we're going to take back out our twine that we made, and the twine, I always like to make like less and then just make more as I need it than to have a really long piece, because it I don't know, it's hard to handle like really long threads of any kind. I find like they get tangled up and it's like when like you don't have to do that. Just make a shorter one and make more when you need it. I think it's a lot easier to do it that way. So I twisted that onto the little floret, and now I'm going to center that just like that. And again, I'm going to try to get my fingers out of the way so you can see it. So we're going to go 1, 2, around to the other side, 1, 2. And like I said, you can always adjust it, try to get a little bit more centered. And I don't know what it is about this flower, but my hair sticks to it like crazy. Okay, so I'm gonna have it like that. And we're just gonna, I like to give it a couple little pinches, a little pinch in the front, a little pinch in the back. And now we're just gonna pull it until it breaks. You can see how that has like a little teeny tiny bit of extra? You can just pinch that in. This stuff will stick to itself, no problem. And now we're gonna push that up and take a look at it, and it's gonna, I actually want this one to go a little bit more that way. I think that looks nice, and this one needs to go a little bit higher, so I'm just gonna take it, and you just really, you can play with it and adjust it to your heart's content, really. And just kind of, don't worry about anything at all. You know, just make it how you want it to look. So I think that looks nice. And so you're going to do that with all 4 of them. And I actually have so this is with 3 of those large tendrils on it. See, there's 1, 2, 3. And I'm just going to show you how to do the last one, because I find the last one, because there's so much space from that first one to the last one, I think that that needs actually the most nudging and adjusting. So I wanted to show you that. Like, see how that doesn't really line up with any of the other florets? That's just because you need to really make it stretch. Go right up there, just like that. And this is the other side of it, so I'm just gonna really make it stretch, just like that. Oh, I might have gone too far with that one. Let's see. Now we're just going to adjust it. Keep that spacing pretty even. And you could honestly just do this forever, but I think that looks pretty good. So now for the final step, I'm going to give that just a touch of floral tape right at the bottom to make sure everything is going to kind of stay where you want it to. And like I said, when you're arranging it, you might want to be a little bit careful because like they can nudge a little bit from one way or the other. But for the most part, it's going to just kind of stay like that. And if you want to play with it, or if you accidentally hit it the wrong way and you need to put it back, you can for sure. And I'm actually going to put one more layer of floral tape right on this stem. And that's mainly because this stem I put floral tape on a couple of days ago when I was prepping all this stuff. And as days and hours and time goes by, it will start to kind of lose its stick. So I just want that nice and sticky for when I put on my last step, which is the stem strip. So this is the stem strip. And it comes in a big sheet in the kit, and you just separate one of these. Usually it takes about 2 stem strips to cover a full stem, but because I said this is just half a strip or half a stem, because I have a really small little light box that I use to kind of do this hands-free sort of shooting of these videos. And so I like to make a half stem because it is a lot easier to work with in the small space that I have. But you should use the whole thing. And now I am just going to press this into the stem and roll like that. And my phone is ringing. Cool. And now I am going to just secure that end with just a teeny tiny little piece of floral tape. And if you're doing a whole stem, go ahead and use the whole thing, and then use the other sticks, the other piece, and just start it on the opposite end. So start with the dark end and go down, and then start with the lighter end and go down, and that'll give you a really nice gradient so it looks like a real living plant. Those little details in the green, I think, can make or break a paper flower. And now as a final step, I'm just going to take the glue, and I found the easiest way to give the stem a quick little coat of glue is just to use your fingers. So I have it nice and soaked on my finger, and I'm going to cover that in glue. And the reason why we do this is because the floral tape and the stem paper really, they really do stick really nicely together, but it's not really a permanent stick. Like you could definitely, it definitely can flake off, especially if you're using it to like make a wreath or something and you're bending that wire a lot. The floral, the stem paper isn't going to really, it's going to kind of flake off, but if we do this, that's going to give it a nice permanent bond. And now we're going to set that and let that dry for like an hour or two, because if you touch it while it's still damp, sometimes that paper that we just put on there can kind of slough off until the glue is totally dry. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video.